you know, a connection here. You've got Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch is the fastest in that first run, and then it's Logano in a Ford, Bowman in a Chevrolet, Keselowski with his deal in the 6 car in the top 5 right there. I mean, it's all over the place on speed. So I think there's a lot of unknowns here when we switch over to qualifying trim. Pump these air pressures up and go for it.
All right, you got 5 gears to get through to get to top speed here.
Man, it looks weird seeing that splitter way up in the air. Motorboating, as Matt called it. I guess that's what we're going to stick with.
Well, he lived on Lake Norman for a while, so yeah, that's what it looks like.
Big run off of 4, running high, wide, and Hanson, making this track as big as possible. Will he run down low right here?
I think he'll run in the middle of 1 and 2 and the bottom of 3 and 4. Or maybe he'll run in the 4th group in 1 and 2.
We'll have to get you a ratchet strap to the pole.
Oh, for the spotter to keep him on the roof.
Definitely different line right here, and that's what's so cool about this racetrack. Run all over this place. Decided to run high in 1 and 2, and then the bottom of 3 and 4. Pretty much wide open in 1 and 2. You saw him breathe it a little bit. Quite a bit more out of the gas in 3 and 4.
So this will determine 5 drivers who will go on to the final round. 41.56, 173 miles an hour.
Actually slower than what he ran in practice right there. Run a 41.51 in practice and was the fastest.
So Christopher Bell did not come out for his qualifying. BJ McLeod from Wauchula, Florida, Live Fast Racing.
Yeah, I think like we talked about, the track will get progressively slower as the day goes on and you get more cars to run on it. And I guess that shows us maybe there's not much difference in your qualifying setup than your race setup.
And a little bit of monkey see, monkey do here. You see BJ McLeod ran in the exact same groove. It's going to be interesting as we go through this qualifying session if that's the preferred groove or somebody tries something different, find some more speed. Very loose right there, trying to pull it down to the white line. Never got it there. Had to unwind the wheel, come out of it. I think he kind of aborted this lap.
Oh, little smoke there.
I'd say bottomed out.
As he came off turn 4. But yeah, he was way out of the throttle there. And McLeod 44.10.
You talk about that wind, and I mean, it's hard to explain how much faster you're going down the backstretch with that tailwind, and you just get into the corner farther than you think. And like you say, then you hit the crosswind in the middle, and it just kind of adds up to what you see there.
He couldn't get down below that seam either. The thing looked like he was trying to get down there. As he crossed the seam, he met that crosswind, had his hands full, and said enough. I've seen enough people spin out. I'm not going to add my name to the list.
Kevin Harvick will not qualify. This will be Josh Bilicki from Wisconsin. This will be his first Cup start at this track. He has 3 Xfinity races here.
I never knew he was a fellow cheesehead. I learned something today.
Yeah, Menominee Falls near Milwaukee.
Try to learn something every day. I learned something today.
Yeah, and don't just say Menominee, because even if I pronounce it correctly, it's on the other side of the state. Regan.
Chase Elliott standing here watching the qualifying session right now of Group A. You're going to be in Group B. How important is it to try and learn what you can from these guys to equate what happened in your practice to what's going to happen in qualifying?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard being down here. Not a ton of good ways to watch, but obviously Alex going right there, we'll get a read on what he feels and what he fights, and maybe make a decision based off of that. But I think the smartest thing we can do is just kind of focus on ourselves and worry about what I was feeling there in our session, and just make our best guess. I think it's going to be way more important to have this thing driving good tomorrow than it is to qualify fast. So we'll go and try to be smart here in qualifying, but obviously want to try to make the right decisions for tomorrow. It's going to be interesting. Thanks, Chase.
Alex Bowman going to get close to Denny Hamlin here, way out of the throttle down there going into turn number 3. He was the winner the last time we raced here 2 years ago, and he's going to be second to Hamlin by 7/100ths.
Picked up a little bit from practice, running 81 in race trim. 63 right there. Looked like it bottomed out in 3 and 4. You see that smoke come up. I think that smoke is the carbon fiber burning off of it, which I wouldn't think you would want to do with this thing. We know that that thing's very, very important on the aero side of things, and that thing being the diffuser underneath the car, you do not want to grind that off.
So here's Christopher Bell, who had a spin right at the end of practice.
And like you heard him say, he was trying to get to pit road. So that's one thing we saw at Daytona with even Denny spinning trying to get to pit road. I think it was in one of the qualifying races. Everybody likes to practice that on hot tires. When you're done with your run, you try to get to pit road as fast as you can to simulate a green flag pit stop on worn hot tires. So that's what he was trying to do, and must have got the brakes locked up or the car spun out doing that. So kind of get your points all picked out for tomorrow to try to make as much time as you can getting on and off pit road.
Jamie?
Brad Keselowski making this long walk down pit lane. What are your expectations here for qualifying?
Holding on, whether it's the wind or the cars, this is going to be one of the most exciting qualifying we've seen in a while. But you know, the cars are hard to drive. They're supposed to be that way, and I think a lot of the drivers asked for it. And we got what we wanted. You know, after practice was over for our group, I thought, wow, we're really bad. This thing drives terrible. And then I saw everybody else, like, okay, maybe not that bad.
Thanks, Brad.
I know this sounds bad, but I am so happy to hear those guys talking about concerns. This car doesn't drive good. It's not supposed to drive good. You're trying to run the thing 180 mile an hour around the corner. It ought to have its hands full and be hard to control that thing, and it looks like it is.
Cole Custer, this is his home track. He's got an Xfinity Series win here. Finished top 20 in his only Cup start when we were here in 2020.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a lot more fun to watch, too. But when you get the cars, you know, driving bad, the teams are going to have some time to get it sorted out. I mean, it's going to keep getting better every week. So that's kind of what the drivers wanted. I think the first package had much less horsepower, much more downforce, much more on throttle time. And everybody wanted to take some of that mid-corner speed away so they could race better. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for tomorrow.
For me, that car that we used to have, that on throttle time of being virtually wide open all the way around, it was very frustrating, especially when you're back in a pack, and if you got in dirty air whatsoever, you were the only one having to lift. You look over, your crew chief's saying, well, I'm looking at SMT here, and the leader's wide open. Well, he's got about an elephant on the hood for downforce that I don't have back here in dirty air. You know, it was just a very frustrating thing. In my opinion, more off time just is going to be better racing for a fan to be able to watch.
Yeah, I 100% agree. When I drove that package in 2020, I felt the same way. I was mid-pack as best, and it was a lot different than trying to run up front.
Look at this
Austin
run right
Dillon
here.
closing in on Denny Hamlin. He's going to be third, 41.67.
Really gained it all, rolling through the middle of the corner. That thing pointed good, got back to the gas off of 4, made up a lot of ground on the exit of 4 coming to the checker.
Now bumping has begun. Only the top 5 in this group advance. Cole Custer on the bubble. Corey LaJoie has 3 starts at this racetrack, including a top 30 finish in 2020.
Moved down a lane, running that 3rd lane instead of the 4th, which has pretty much been the preferred line.
Boy, and that cost him through the center of 1 and 2.
I think I don't know what that was. That was a big bump.
That was a big pothole.
That's either the wind or just a slight data flow issue.
But it did show me, and you mentioned it, him cutting that corner off and running a shorter distance in 1 and 2. He ran into trouble as he got to the wall. Had to pull on that wheel, really got, and then as soon as that catches up, you get closer to that wall, it finally catches up, you got a handful of wheel in it, and wants to come around on you. Back out of the gas you are, losing time.
So LaJoie 7th. Here's Joey Logano, runner-up here in 2019. He's finished top 10 in 6 out of the last 8 here. And he is ahead of Denny Hamlin by a good margin here. Cole Custer on the bubble. That's the yellow line on our scoring chart.
And Joey, you saw run 1 groove lower in the corner than Denny did down through 1 and 2. So on the Ghost car, you'd almost think that the 11 would make ground up down the backstretch, being wider off the corner and with that tailwind, but it seemed like they held pretty steady.
Boys, we got a new head man in charge right here.
Yes, we do. Joey Logano knocks Cole Custer out of the top 5 at 41.35. He has 2/10 on Denny Hamlin.
That was a fast lap.
Now, all this does is determine the 5 drivers who move on to round 2, the final round.
It's so hard to go out and run a lap. All right, we got to go out and bust the fastest lap of the day off. And I've already had this thing backwards one time. We saw it, with Christopher Bell as well. I just felt like he lifted way out of the gas getting into 3. That's a hard thing to do. Get back in the saddle and go for it again. And oh, by the way, I need the best lap out of you ever right here. Only have one shot.
Chris Buescher trying to knock Christopher Bell out of the top 5 and advance to the final round.
Yeah, the other thing, too, is most people ran several laps in that first practice, so your tires are worn, the car's not handling the best, and now you're going to put 4 new tires on it and go out running the fastest lap you can, and it's hard to have that confidence in that field to always get, as tight as they are, to get every little bit of time out of it.
Well, we'll have to check on the tiebreaker because Bell and Buescher have identical laps to the 1,000th of a second. Daniel Hemrick, the Xfinity champ. He has 3 Xfinity and 1 Cup start at this speedway.
You mentioned a top 5 again. If we're just tuning in here, it's so important that you know that the top 5 goes on to the final round to meet the other group, which is what we'll see next. You don't really need to be the fastest car like Logano is right now. Run one good enough to make that top 5, but that's a tough thing. Very tight lap times because you really need the tires the most in this final round to set on the pole.
Here comes Hemrick. He's going after the top spot in Group A. No! 5/100ths of a second. Short to Joey Logano.
It looked like on that Ghost car that Joey shortened up the straightaway more than he did and got to the start-finish line a little bit longer.
And the tiebreaker between Christopher Bell and Chris Buescher is car owner championship points from 2021 for the first 3 races. And then it'll be this year's owner points. But neither one of them's in the top 5. Where Austin Dillon holds down the last spot, and that's likely to change right here. As Kyle Busch, 4-time winner at this racetrack, and top 3 in 6 of his last 9 starts here.
He was back to the throttle hard and early right there. An affirmative all the way through, never having to lift out of the gas. Oh, had trouble on that seam. You heard him have to get on that seam. He couldn't get down, couldn't pull on the wheel, had to get out of the gas and burp it. We'll see if it hurts him.
Yeah, he never got where he wanted to go to. He wanted to get all the way down to that seam, and like you say, you can't pull on the wheel anymore because the back's coming out, and you just got to chase it until you can find grip again, and that definitely cost him some time.
But you saw it. He made the top 5, and as long as he doesn't get knocked out of there, he'll live to see another day and have another opportunity at correcting that mistake. Won't let it happen again.
So Austin Dillon is out, and Alex Bowman is on the bubble as far as cars to advance. Michael McDowell has 11 races here. Was 22nd the last time the Cup Series was here in 2020. And he's going to flirt with the top 5 here. After McDowell, Keselowski and Briscoe to finish off Group A.
His car looks like it rides really bad in the back. Even the center of the corner of 3 and 4, you saw him hit that bump and the whole back end jumped out. That's not going to be fun to drive for 3 hours if they don't get it riding a little smoother than that.
And McDowell is 10th fastest.
It really is for these teams to do what they got to do down there and get this job done in this new format.
Did you talk with your hands a lot when you debriefed?
Yeah, I think that was I think all drivers have to do that. Yeah, I think it's a requirement.
You can't explain the magnitude of even remotely close to what's going on in that car without your hands. You have to have it. That thing was too tight. Too tight means the wheel's too far. Too loose means you're turning right too much.
I mean, Clint's up here talking with his hands.
You can't say that without your hands.
Brad Keselowski, 6 straight top 10s here, the longest streak among active drivers. New team for 2022 for Brad, and looks like he may knock front row Bo out of the top 5.
I love that knockout bracket style qualifying sessions that they've created here. I think it's exciting all the way through this first round with both groups, and then all of a sudden at the end in the finals, both groups finally get to see one another.
So Keselowski is second, 2 Fords, 1 Chevy, 2 Toyotas in the top 5, with just Chase Briscoe coming off a 3rd place finish in the Daytona 500. He has 2 Xfinity races here and a top 5 finish. This will be his first Cup start here.
And an opportunity to knock a guy like Kyle Busch, and that little bitty mistake that we saw could cost him the opportunity at a top 10 starting spot.
Yeah, I agree with you, this format. It's really fun to watch. Those 2 15-minute sessions, 2 different groups of cars, and then the first group goes right out there and qualifies. It's just it's nonstop. It's fun to watch.
So the cars from 6th on down will occupy row 6 on the inside for tomorrow's race. Bowman row 6, Dillon row 7, Bell row 8, and so forth.
I think these guys Kyle Busch is plenty safe.
And Briscoe is 12th.
Not at all what he was looking for with this field training.
So 5 drivers led by Joey Logano will move on to round 2 from Group A. Group A has completed their qualifying runs as Group B lines up. Let's look at the results. Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Daniel Hemrick, Denny Hamlin, and Kyle Busch move on to the final round of qualifying. Regan?
Well, Mike, Joey Logano will have the opportunity to run for the pole here in just a few minutes in this Group A and B qualifying. What did the reality of that lap match up to the expectations you had going into it?
I have no more expectations for anything. That's where I'm at with this new car. You just don't know what you're up against. You know, we woke up this morning and you just hope that you got the right springs in the car because you're married to them. You know, you hope that you have all the right stuff in it because you don't have a 15 minutes to fix it. And it's pretty challenging right now when we don't have much experience with the car. But the Auto Club Mustang shows some speed on the long run, and qualifying, who knows, right? We didn't know, and it fired off pretty well there. So a couple adjustments to it, and hopefully we can fire off the second session just as fast.
Thanks, Joey.
Such a good point right there, and I think the lap times in that first group being all over the place validate that very thing that he just talked about. These guys have their hands full, a lot of unknowns. And when you see lap times, particularly in a qualifying session, that are all over the place, not necessarily, Matt, and Daytona, they were on top of one another all the way across the board. You come here, we're separating by 2-3 tenths of some of them.
So this begins Group B with William Byron. Now, he's not concerned with the time that Joey Logano put up because he is only competing against the other drivers in Group B to be one of the 5 fastest in this group to advance to the final round. 41-47. Again, the order of qualifying is set by a metric using the finish of the last race, point standings, and fastest lap in the last race, from slowest to or least amount of points to highest. So Harrison Burton, who like Byron crashed out of the Daytona 500, goes early in this second round. He got his first Xfinity win here 2 years ago.
It's funny when they talk about the springs and being married to them. This format's definitely, it's better to have some practice and maybe make some little changes than not having any practice, but it's not a ton different than how it was last year or the year before when they didn't have practice. You showed up and that's what was in your car and that's what you had to race, at least from a setup standpoint. From a driver's standpoint, it's nice to get some laps on the track, get a feel for it, get some feedback, things for the crew to think about, but not a ton of things you can change.
Harrison Burton second, 41-98. Jamie?
Well, earlier in practice, Kyle Busch, we listened to your radio and you heard some weird things. You felt some weird things. You even thought it was going to blow up at one point. After qualifying, where does the car stand?
Well, that's the transaxle. We've got transaxle issues, no question. It's when the clutch is out and everything's spinning and freewheeling. There's just too much slop. There's too much gap and all the stuff, and it's really rattly, makes noise. When you push the clutch in and everything slows down and stops, the noise kind of goes away. So I've had that issue happen before in a sand car. So I've heard it before. I just don't remember what the problem of it was. But it definitely needs to go back to the shop. You got to take it to the repair shop and have them work on it. So I don't know what that means. But past that, where we're at right now, just being able to get a good lap in, be in a top 5 here. So would love to be able to think that we've got a couple more tenths in it. We really messed up the balance for turns 3 and 4, but 1 and 2 is great. So if we can get 3 and 4 fixed, I feel like we could have a shot to improve.
Thanks, Kyle.
Tyler Reddick for Richard Childress Racing finished 11th in his one and only Cup start here. Fastest in his group in practice, and he is second. 4 100ths off of William Byron's fast time. Lost some there in 3 and 4 in practice to Denny Hamlin. Was fast in 1 and 2.
I think it's that wind. Everybody's hitting that wind different. It's gusting different, for everybody. If you catch it right, I think you can get down to the bottom and really, roll good. If you're a guy like Kyle Busch, maybe that's what it was. Caught a big gust as he's trying to cross those seams. Once that thing steps out, you're along for the ride and reacting from then on.
Rookie Todd Gilliland making his first appearance at this track in Southern California. He's never raced here in NASCAR's Top 3 Series. You saw Kyle Busch during the interview holding one of his beverage cans. He put one on Twitter this week where the can was stenciled upside down, with the pop top was on the bottom. He said it was the Harrison Burton commemorative edition.
I bet Harrison didn't think that was funny.
I hope he did. I mean,
kind of funny.
You're not laughing, you're crying. So 42.50 for Todd Gilliland.
You see right up there in the front, this track is the only track I've ever seen it, but there's a mile an hour getting into one. Matt, that was always something, particularly in a qualifying right here. You knew how good a job you did coming to the green off of the speed right here.
So that's it's for the fans, obviously, but that's easy for the drivers to read where that is.
And that's about as fast as I've seen. I saw 187 just a minute ago. I think on William Byron, you saw 188 right there.
Yeah, Clint and I were talking before on commercial. It's funny because you used to look at that thing, and you'd kind of, you'd be in a long run and maybe you'd be by yourself. You'd start glancing over at that mile per hour getting into the corner. Sometimes a little too long.
Had a little bit of trouble getting it quite down, just like we were talking about. Come off of turn 2, a little bit to the lead on an advantage. Got to that crosswind, picked it up. Couldn't get it all the way down to the white line like he wanted to, and lost. You can see the difference right there, and I think it all was right in the middle.
Yeah, it looked like he was tracking for the pole so far in this, or the fastest lap so far in this session, until he got to that same spot, kind of where Kyle's car stepped out.
So Larson is third, and now the bumping will begin as only the top 5 move on to the final round. Eric Jones for Petty GMS Motorsports. 2 top 10s in his last 3 races here. And he's ahead of William Byron. Got ahead a good run through 1 and 2. Holding on to that margin off 4.
You bet.
That's a heck of a lap.
Car just looks stable all the way through,
Very.
even on the bumps on the back straightaway. You didn't see it bouncing around. Good combination of aero and suspension.
All right,
is what I
nicely
saw.
done. Get your switches
Good
right.
job, boys.
41.32.
Yeah, he is 16 100ths of a second ahead of William Byron now.
Yeah, that's a heck of a lap.
Nice lap for Eric Jones.
Yeah, you kind of watch them through 1 and 2, and it's pretty smooth over there. And whether they're in the 3rd or 4th lane, the cars look similar, and you can always tell. It seems like who the good cars are going to be from the middle of the backstretch until you get off of turn 4, because that's where all the bumps are, and you got the crosswind and the tailwind, and got a lot more to deal with. It seems like on 3 and 4 today than in 1 and 2.
David Reagan was in the 15 for Rick Ware Racing at Daytona. Here is Garrett Smithley, who's going to drive a bunch of races for this team this year. He has 2 starts here. Finished 34th when we were here 2 years ago. All right, so let me review what happens to the cars that do not make the final round. They will start 11th through 40, not one group in each lane, but by their overall speeds. They will start 11th through 40th.
So if you don't make the top 5, you fall in line according to your speed.
Yes, against everybody, not just against your group.
12 from back.
Smithley 43.95. Here is Ricky Stenhouse, finished 5th here in 2016. He's had 8 races at this track in the Cup Series.
And man, he was in position to try to win the Daytona 500 last week too, without that last caution. He's such a good restrictor plate racer, and had his car up there, challenging for the win. Get under red flag, and they're talking to about winning, and I think he was wrecked the next lap. That's how fast things change at Daytona.
Yeah, unfortunately, we interviewed him, and then I saw on Twitter on the way home, everybody I interviewed ended up wrecked. So maybe you can do the interviews this week. I don't think any of them are going to answer me on the radio.
Yeah, but there was a lot of people that wrecked. I mean, there was a pretty high percentage of the people.
I talk a lot, Matt. I interviewed a lot of guys.
Okay.
Stenhouse trying to bump in and knock Harrison Burton out of the top 5. Does so by 0.3 of a second. 41.68 for Stenhouse. We are halfway through Group B of the first round of 2 of qualifying. Daniel Suarez wearing our Fox Visor cam.
Ooh, looks bumpy.
He has 1 top 10 finish in 4 starts here, 7th in 2017.
That'd say 190. That's the fastest we've seen get off into the corner. And look where the ticker is. Didn't get off the corner quite as good.
He might have been watching that sign and got in a little deeper than he wanted to.
I think he did.
Woo. Oh my gosh.
Listen to how hard that thing bottoms out.
That's Fox bobblehead cam.
Yeah, he almost needs a shock on his helmet. There you could hear the engine rev up when it hit the bump again there. If it's doing that on stickers,
he might get in the top 5 on Ricky Stenhouse. Yes, he does. By 5/100ths. Nice run for Daniel Suarez.
The one bump that I heard right there that I haven't necessarily remember feeling, it was that one off of 4. After you get past the center of the corner, you heard it one more time. Yeah. You made comment of how that thing unloaded and really took the tires off the ground and spun. That's on sticker tires. Old tires, look out.
All right, Cody Ware on track. Here's Regan.
Mike, Eric Jones in pretty good shape to make it to the next round. We can't say you're officially locked in yet, but very close with a good lap. How tough is it now to adjust on a race car that was that quick, or do you need any adjustments?
Well, I think just trying to keep up with the track. Obviously, 1 lap is a lot here. It makes a big difference. So just trying to make adjustments and keeping up with what's going to change tire-wise. So obviously the Focus Factory Chevy has speed, and we just need to make it do it one more time. But I felt like I hit that one really good, which is, a good thing, but also a bad thing, right? You want to do the exact same thing over again. So hopefully just can hit it good again. But Dave's done a great job, and all these guys just bring a good car, bring a fast car. Obviously not really a lot of time to change anything, so unloading good is really important, and we did that so far today. So happy with that.
Good luck in round 2.
How about an attaboy for Cody Ware? Got his best career finish last week in the Daytona 500, 17th.
Nice lap, man. 42.63.
That's pretty sporty. 9th quickest. Kurt Busch will not get to qualify due to inspection issues. So Ty Dillon rolls out next. New colors for the Petty GMS number 42. That is co-owner Maury Gallagher's company. And you'll see it here and at Las Vegas, where Allegiant also has the football stadium. They're alongside the interstate where the Raiders play. Ty Dillon has 4 starts here. Best finish of 18th in 2017.
He saw his car step out and get a little bit out of shape off of turn 4 as well. That same spot we were kind of talking about just past the apex.
41.77, leaving Daniel Suarez safe in 5th for the moment. How close was it?
All kinds of room.
I think some of that was promoted to the fact that he really couldn't get it down to the bottom as well, but he knew better. He didn't even try. Once he realized he was going to miss the bottom, he just straddled the line, seaming 3 and 4, which put him a beat higher off of the exit.
Well, the top 7 in this group are all Chevrolets, and it's about to be top 8. Chase Elliott has the best average finish among all active drivers at this track.
Well, he's certainly taking. Well, hey, first car we've seen on the apron. That's old school.
That. Yeah, that's where the grip is.
Absolutely, always was. I was surprised, but the other thing that's very important to keep in mind right here, you don't want to be. It doesn't matter to be the fastest car right now.
Good job.
As soon as these two groups, this next round coming, that's where you got to have the heat. Do not scrub too much rubber off these tires, because you're going to need them in a big way here in a minute.
So he was 0.14 faster than Eric Jones. Does that mean every car from here on out gets down on the apron?
Yeah,
everybody's
that's what
watching.
that means.
Everybody's watching if they can get there. Everybody's having a hard time getting to the bottom, and he got his all the way to the bottom. So I always thought this track, when you get into turn 3, you try to do that big arc, and a lot of it was just dictated by your speed, but how good the front tires were. If it kept coming toward the bottom, a lot of times just let it keep coming and across that apron, and you get a better launch off the corner. But other times, like Clint says, you're chasing it and you get that wind and you just can't get there.
I always found the apron to be kind of my saving grace insurance package, if you will. You can kind of be slipping and sliding around there, and cars out from underneath that. Whoa!
He got down to the apron and around it almost goes. Nice save.
Great save
for Almirola.
By the way, that's the first save that I've seen this car get sideways, completely sideways like that, and keep it going forward without all the way around.
It looked cool and sounded cool, too. You could hear him driving it, grabbing gears and the exhaust, and he did a heck of a job of not getting that car tore up.
Obviously got loose. Dang it.
Yes, he did.
Almost exactly overlies Kevin Harvick. How fast that thing snapped around. Already was back to the throttle.
Look how fast he gets to pit road. He should almost try that for his pit stop tomorrow. Look at that, right to the cone.
And it was cool to hear him say that. Like you said, he was wheeling that thing, clutching it, downshifting, brakes, all the above to keep that thing underneath.
If you would have had stall 40 for the race tomorrow, that'd been awesome.
Martin Truex, the 2018 winner here. Top 10 in 3 of the last 4 races on this 2-mile speedway.
Look at there, on the apron.
Got to go, and to beat Kyle Larson of 41.59, he does with a 51. Bumps Larson out of the top 5.
That's the thing, is those times are all so tight. I mean, I know that Chase is a couple tenths faster, but you talk about saving a little tire for the next round. Those times are just so tight. I don't know how you can do a lot there to try to stay in the top 5. If it was 8 or 10, it'd be a little bit easier.
Ryan Blaney, winner at our other 2-mile speedway, Michigan, last year. 3 top 10s in the last 4 races here.
You're talking about times. You look at the 4th place of Tyler Reddick and the 5th of Truex. Both run a 41.51.
Yeah,
one of them boys is in trouble right here if Ryan Blaney continues his path.
Right now, 4 Chevys, 1 Toyota in the top 5.
You asked us if anybody else would do it.
As soon as Chase did it and sat in the pole, everybody's telling him.
Every crew chief out there, it would have been fun to listen to the radio waves light up, because that's exactly what they told him.
Great lap for Blaney, 41.27, a 10th off Elliott, but solidly in the top 5. That bumps Martin Truex. 1 driver to go, so the top 4 on the board are guaranteed to be in round 2. Here's your Daytona 500 champion. The first rookie to lead the NASCAR point standings since Jimmy Johnson 20 years ago.
Lifted pretty early and back to the throttle way quick, but had to come back out of it, especially kind of all the way through on the exit, but still holding pretty strong. I think that was due, in fact, lifted early, got that momentum back going in his favor, making that straightaway as long as possible.
Oh, had a great launch off turn 2. Looks like Cindric is going to bump in against Tyler Reddick. took the short way to the line and got there 41-31. And that's
Great
0.2
job.
better than Reddick.
41. I think it said 31.
So from this group, 3 Chevys and 2 Fords, led by the driver with Jamie.
And that would be Chase Elliott, fastest here in this group. So you're moving on to the next round. The boys said it was old school. You dropped down low to get some grip. Do you feel like that was the difference there?
Maybe. I feel like I had a pretty good 1 and 2 as well, and I feel like I got kind of lucky with the way my lane worked out for me there off of 4. But it's a tough place to repeat, so we'll try to make some good changes here to our Napa Chevy and hopefully find some consistency for the second round. But regardless, just being able to move on is a good thing, and try to be smart here and work on it for tomorrow.
All right, team's coming up with the plan right now. 10 minutes to get it done here.
Thanks, Jamie. So 10 drivers know they'll start in the top 10. William Byron, 5th in this round. Eric Jones, 4th, both in Chevrolets. Austin Cindric's Ford. Ryan Blaney's Ford. And Chase Elliott's Camaro will run for the pole next.
In NASCAR, the journey begins with one simple start. Turn, bump, win, and celebration. I am the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. I am NASCAR.
Tomorrow on Fox, America's Best battle it out in Southern California, 3 Eastern, only on Fox and on the Fox Sports app. So 5 cars from each group move on and will run slowest to fastest from the first round. Each group will run independent of the other, but then the times will all be combined to set the top 10.
Well, I can tell you Group A is in trouble. Just look at the speed difference between Group A and Group B. A little bit of that may be the fact that they watched. Probably some of them had some teammates in that first one, learned some things with air pressure, some adjustments accordingly, driving lines, as we saw Chase Elliott kind of establish the right line down in 3 and 4. Now everybody puts all that to reuse, reset, and go at that pole.
Yeah, there goes my theory about the track getting slower the longer they run on it, right?
And one organization put all of their cars in the top 10, Team Penske.
Who won that race last week?
Team
we had that?
Penske.
Oh, yeah.
Roger's birthday was last week.
He's fixing to have another birthday.
Was Sunday. Oh, might as well. Chase Elliott, fastest overall in round 1, and the only driver to take full advantage of the apron down in turns 3 and 4.
I don't think you'll see that now. And I don't think he was the only driver. You saw Austin Cindric go down, learn some things. I mean, it always is that case. You see somebody make a change, especially in a qualifying format where it's just go, 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 go like this. Somebody does something different and finds some success, I'm going to do it.
So Group A, Kyle Busch coming up to speed.
Yeah, you say Group A is in trouble, but I wonder if having extra time to cool down is going to be an advantage.
We will see. Matt, different gear shifter since you've been in these cars, since you've been around, man. No more H pattern. No more crossing the gate, pull them babies back. You see them right there, all the way back. By the way, overdrive now. 5th gear, baby.
No more standard H. You know, that would have been really handy and probably would have maybe helped my road course racing a little bit. Probably not a lot before you say it. I'd probably still run really bad. But it would probably be a little less confusing and probably would have been a little easier for me.
Let's see what he's got. Oh, had to lift right there. Cars just want to get light. Seems like they pick the gas up, get across that center really well. Things starts to get light, unrolling the wheel. You got your hands full.
You're also having that transition through 1 and 2 from a headwind on entry to a tailwind.
Did you hear that? Downshifted. I was wondering if that had come into play. Use that downshift. He missed that bottom the first lap, utilizing that shifter. That helped him get down.
If they're shifting in qualifying, they're definitely going to be shifting in a race.
Kyle Busch, 5th fastest in Group A, 41.43 is his time, and he's faster than he was in round 1.
Yeah, I think that 2/10, it was about 2/10 quicker, and I think that was mostly from you know, kind of not missing the bottom in 3 and 4 like he did that first run.
So Denny Hamlin had a 41.56 in the first round. And that green box indicates he is quicker than the fastest car.
I think all that 10th is gained just by being able to leave the throttle down. You heard Kyle Busch have to bail out. Whoa, huge tank swap right there. Stayed with it though.
Yeah, definitely lost a lot of time there. I wonder if it was maybe a downshift there as well, like we saw Kyle do.
Or a gust of wind like we've seen with so many times, time and time again in practice.
The front wheels off the ground as that car porpoised off into the corner.
It's turned right there.
Just trying to get that transition, pulling it from the outside of the wall down to the bottom. The car's light right there. You're out of the gas. The rear end's unlocked. Always a loose place on this racetrack. Very tricky to handle. And then you throw a 35-mile-an-hour gust and wind on top of that, crossing that, you're in trouble.
Daniel Hemrick, running a part-time schedule, was third fastest in Group A, round 1. And he has a shot at the top spot here. Well,
same problem Denny had. He just couldn't get it to the bottom. He elected not to pull on the wheel. Denny was a lot more aggressive with trying to get it to the bottom and got loose. He let it have its head, stayed in that second groove, and obviously lost a lot of time through the center.
Yeah, almost 3 grooves higher than the 9 car ran, with the 9 car being on an apron. He was definitely a lot higher in 3 and 4.
And he was on pace to best both of those Gibbs cars. Lost it all right. Man, that's really loose coming to the green for Brad. Trying to get that momentum up, using that thing, making it as big as possible so you can come to the green with a huge head of steam.
Second fastest in Group A, Brad Keselowski. In the green, and around he goes.
All right, let it straighten out. Try to let it straighten.
Saw that car get loose right there. We've been talking about that. Had that a handful of wheel in it, and as you're unrolling it, getting close to that wall, the car gets light, front wheels start catching up. He tried to stay aggressive. He tried to stay with it because I was watching Kyle Busch. You heard him lift and kind of really keep the car underneath of him. Brad was very aggressive with his throttle, stayed with it, and paid the price.
It's funny, you know, I saw that little bit of yaw, and I was like, he's really got his hands full, and I didn't think they were quite that full. But you're right. You see Kyle get out of the gas before that happened. Happens quick.
I was watching his lap time and really how he was falling off as he was lifting, and he started to gain back on Kyle and Denny, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, he's sideways. And
that's late in the corner too. He was almost all the way to the straightaway.
Trying to stay off that wall.
Yeah, that would.
Brad Keselowski, you see, has spun off turn number 2. You see the tire tracks. The car came to a rest. And Brad very emphatically did not want the wrecker to pick it up and haul it because these teams don't have a whole lot of replacement parts. So the wrecker was in position. They moved the wrecker away, and now the rollback truck, where that bed slides back and then tilts, but they are using the wrecker and that big claw, kind of like the one at the amusement park that you work that never picks up the toy. Well, it picks up the front wheels to minimize any damage of getting this car up on the rollback.
Well, that's just irregardless of the parts situation, whatever else, if there even is a parts situation, there ain't nothing wrong with the underbody of that car. If you drug that thing all the way back with just the front end up, this diffuser that we keep talking about, that we hear every single crew chief in the garage area talk about the importance, there ain't going to be anything left of it by the time it gets back. And I think they're pretty pricey. And by the way, I think he's paying for him now, right? That's why you saw him say, whoa, I saw the bill on that thing. I paid it. I signed a check. No chance you're going to tear that thing up. He was wrong. He lost that bet, by the way. And in his protest, he went to the truck with his tail between his legs.
Yep. Yeah, I think we were at commercial, but he was sitting on his hood. He wasn't wanting to hook up the wrecker, and I think the wrecker ended up winning.
So what are we doing here with the hood flaps?
Just letting it cool off.
And just letting hot air out.
Letting all that air release out of there. So important to get those the tires as cool as possible.
Chris Buescher, Christopher Bell, they both spun. Bubba Wallace spun and made contact with the turn 1 wall. They had to go to the garage to replace the diffuser underneath the race car. He's not qualified.
Unfortunately, the angle of that rollback bed is pretty steep.
Yeah, that's what
they do make a special articulating bed for real low ground clearance cars.
Maybe you should get just like a huge fork truck.
That's not one of them.
Pick it up on the side.
Yeah. Brad Keselowski spins in final round qualifying and will likely end up 10th or somewhere back there. Let's take you into the spin cycle, beginning with Kevin Harvick in Group A practice. Hard hit for Ross Chastain. Chris Buescher also spinning simultaneously. Christopher Bell trying to get onto pit road. Didn't. And then Bubba Wallace out of turn 2, and Eric Almirola.
That one got the most style points.
Almirola saved his.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Regan?
Well, Mike Daniel Hemrick standing next to me. A lot of oohs and ahs as you watch the video of all those guys spinning out today. Very difficult day, but a good day for Kaulig Racing to make it to the final round.
Yeah, Regan, you're right, man. It's so rewarding for everyone at Kaulig Racing to go through the Cup process. I mean, it's so much to get here, let alone with all the other stuff we got going on inside of our sport. So proud of the men and women at Kaulig Racing. Super proud to have Poppy Bank back on board, longtime supporter of mine. We have 50 people up here in a suite that I'm about 10 minutes late to because of all the carnage we've been creating since we got these Cup cars about 2 hours ago. But yeah, proud of these folks. Single digits. Matt Kaulig, thank you. Chris Rice, look forward to having a good Sunday tomorrow, but got a little Xfinity racing to do here. Look forward to it.
Thanks, Daniel.
I don't think those guests will mind waiting if he puts that car on the front row.
Now listen, I didn't expect this in California, but for a kid coming from Kansas, let me tell you something. That flag was going the other way when we were talking about everybody spinning out in 3 and 4. Brad Keselowski just spun out off of 2, and you saw right before him Kyle Busch have trouble off of 2. The flag, the wind's going the other direction. Now the handfuls off of 2. Let's see if anybody else has trouble over there versus 3 and 4.
Joey Logano, the fastest from Group A in round 1 of qualifying at a 41.35. That's the 5th fastest time overall. And he continues to gain on it. Down the back stretch, even right there.
You say down, he ran the down 1 lane too. Didn't run that 4th groove. Ran 3 and kind of split the seam.
How low will he go? All the way.
That's the thing about that apron. You get loose getting to it, but
whoa, and he's in the wall.
And I think he's in the wall because he used too much apron. I never critique anybody up here, but that was something that was different. He was the first car when his crew chief said run the apron. All right, I'll give you the apron. All 4 wheels were down there, and when he hit it, he was wide open to the throttle, and it looked like he run out of real estate, had to pull in the wheel, and away it went.
Well, got loose getting to it. Watch the car straighten back out when he gets on it. Now the yaw goes away. It seems like it does right there. Then it comes back up off it and hit that bump is when it took off. That same bump you keep talking about 2/3 of the way through the corner. You'll see a little bit of dust fly off that bump like the diffuser or something hit it. Right there.
Yeah.
That's when it got loose, right off that bump.
Man, such a good lap going.
That bump is right about where the tunnel for access to the infield is. Now, William Byron had left pit road, but because the track has gone red, Byron's going to be allowed to come back in and cool that thing down a bit before making his run.
Just tells you how hard these things are to drive and how important qualifying is. I mean, that thing was all over the place, and he was going for it to the very end and almost made it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, you'll have to think back on this. So if you go back 3 generations of cars, so you go 07 would be the last year of that car when they came out with what they call the car of tomorrow in 2008. I don't know that I've seen a single car spin out by themselves since they came out with that car.
Yeah, since 06. It was the last time I remember being in a car where you would have a handful of wheel, like I said earlier, wide open throttle, and that thing would just snap, and you'd be in the wall almost before you took the throttle out. One thing I did love about that, I'm not too sure he wouldn't have finished a fuel or a tire run out on that car. You saw that he hit hard and not a lot of damage to that car. I think he could have kept going on because no fender, problem and wouldn't cut a tire down.
Not only that, but we could see that the sidewalls and the rims all did hit the safer barrier. And one of the concern about these forged wheels is they don't bend like a steel wheel. They fracture. But in this case, the tires were up, the rims were intact, everything did its job, and everything held up. So I agree. He probably could have finished out whatever run he was on.
These cars will take a beating.
Yep.
The body will take a beating. And, I was a little bit concerned about some of the suspension components at Daytona, but at the end of the day, those wrecks are massive. You take a direct hit, a blunt hit to one of those wheels, it's going to bend, it's going to break, and you're not going to go. But that right there was very promising.
Eric Jones leaves pit road. We'll check with Jamie.
And Denny Hamlin's second right now. Well, Denny, I heard you on the radio, a little bit of frustration, but how would you describe what it's like to drive these cars in qualifying right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's what we got. It's, as my crew chief said, it's a war out there. It's just a battle of attrition. These teams really fighting a lot of stuff. They're under a lot of pressure to try to get these cars to the track without wrecking them, much less having ones that are wrecked. So I just feel for these team guys. They're working so hard right now. Our shop's working 7 days a week, and we're just trying to fight issues that are out of our control. These are the cards we're dealt, and unfortunately, all these crashes ain't making anything better.
The 11 team doing a heck of a job right now, Mike.
And that's another driver owner talking. Brad Keselowski and now Denny Hamlin with an ownership stake, albeit Hamlin's in 2311, not the team that he drives for. So with William Byron getting to cool down, Eric Jones, who was 4th in Group B and 4th overall, picking up some time here on the back straightaway. Smooth run for Eric Jones. Will it be enough to topple Kyle Busch? Yes, by 9/100ths of a second.
Great lap. Great effort by that team. Great moves in the offseason. Bringing Dave Elance over from Junior Motorsports. A lot of success with Jimmy Johnson all the way through. I think you're going to see a different 43 and Eric Jones this year because of some of the great moves they've made in the offseason.
Austin Cindric, your Daytona 500 champ. 193 rolling off into turn 1. Had that bit of wind down the front straightaway to help that speed. And Cindric above the apron. Eric Jones stay on the top is going to be brief.
Middle to back.
Austin Cindric.
P1, 41.226. Great job, man. Just into 3.
The low mo showing up, fellas. Momentum cannot be denied.
He was awesome. I say we gave it a little bit back in steering forward, but 1 and 2 was killing.
So awesome to see. Back to that mile an hour we're watching. We're talking 3-4 mile an hour difference with that wind changing directions, pushing these cars down the front straightaway instead of being in their face with a headwind.
His speed 193 into turn 1, same as Austin Cindric's. Ryan Blaney, it seems, did not get off turn 2 nearly as well. He is on the apron.
Yeah, certainly not the lap that they were looking for.
6th for Blaney.
Thinking glass half full like we were talking about, Matt. Still a top 10 starting spot. It's a big deal to make this final 10, this final round of 10.
Yeah, I mean, all these 10 cars, you know, assuming they're not crashed, are going to feel good about the day. They're all starting in the top 10 tomorrow. They'll have their cars that they started the day with. I guess minus 22 so far, and then get ready to go race tomorrow. So I think that's a success. You know, you get some time on the track, top 10 starting spot. It's a good start to the weekend.
Yeah, you know, you heard Denny and his words there, you know, being a little bit frustrated in the situation. At the end of the day, that's in their control. You know, you're in the top 10. You're locked into a really good starting spot regardless. You know, is it really worth being on the pole when in the top 10 is pretty good? Probably wasn't for some of those guys.
Byron got down. Problem. Same song, second verse.
Air, no contact yet. No contact. Still up. Just got into the grass. Hit anything?
William Byron comes undone. Same story. Down on the apron and the transition back up onto the racetrack, and it got away from him.
I'm stuck in the grass.
That same bump, you could see the dust fly out the back. I don't know what exactly hits, if it's the rut blocks underneath there or the diffuser or what it is, but when that hits, it seems like it really upsets the car, and it's hard to catch from there. Same spot the 22 came off there. Pretty straight, hit that bump, and you see that car actually porpoised a couple times. Yeah, he did a couple bounces there and just lost it.
Can they find that bump? You know, that's what's interesting. Is that bump consistent all the way up through the racetrack? Is that something that these drivers need to go out and diagnose, look at this thing, figure out where that's at on the track, and with that bump right there, do not hit it.
You know, it seems like the 22 and the 24 came off the apron and was driving back up the hill and they hit the bump, and those are the two that had the worst results, it seems like, when it hit it.
And it's worst case scenario. You're hitting that bump with a lot of wheel in it, trying to get up off the racetrack, wide open throttle, asking a lot out of the car. When that thing hits and unloads, she's along for the ride.
Now, he's got at least one and maybe both right side tires down. That's why that car won't move.
The other thing you're doing is you're coming off that apron, which is basically flat, and driving up on the banking, trying to get the car loaded back up, and then you're hitting that bump. So it might just be the angle that it's is going across there is making it a little bit more severe than if you're higher on the racetrack.
Chase Elliott seemed like he had a whole different line coming off the apron, a much more shallow line than where these fellows went straight to the top.
Like he was on it longer.
All right, Joey Logano, William Byron. Here's a look.
Yeah, Joey spun much later.
One thing you can try to do, and again, utilizing that apron, is let the car get around the corner a little bit farther. And that's my question. Is that bump worse? Now that we're seeing cars using this apron and getting down there using a lower line, is it worse down low than it is up high? You've got to figure out how to navigate around that. And it's the same for everybody. You know, it's the same racetrack. You got to find a suspension setup that is happy. You got to find a line as a driver to go around that. Those are characteristics of a racetrack. It actually left a mark, and I think that's what it is. Those blocks underneath the car, the ride limiting blocks that they have, is another reason why they get stuck when they have flat tires too. They get down on those blocks and can't move.
And when it's hitting the frame or hitting the blocks, whatever it's hitting, obviously that's load is taken out of the tires.
Well, your suspension just goes to eternity. Anytime you hit something like that, whether it's eye-to-eye on a shock or a block or anything, it throws all suspension out the window.
Jamie?
Austin Cindric comes from winning the Daytona 500 to now is the fastest man out there. I'll tell you, you're seeing a little bit of everything. There's frustrated drivers, and then there's guys like you who climb out and you're smiling. What has this day been like for you?
Yeah, it's certainly been crazy, and I feel like I anticipated it. This is just such a challenging racetrack, and obviously a lot of newness for everybody. Obviously, we brought a lot of speed in our quick straight Menards Ford Mustang, and talk about suspense in this qualifying format. I got to wait for Chase, and he's got to wait and think about his lap, and overall, obviously, it's been an awesome week for me. I'm honestly really happy to get back to work and figuring out this process. I can't tell you the last time I've had to talk myself into doing a lap like that for quite a while. Just there's so many unknowns. Everyone's constantly learning. I don't think we're going to be halfway through the race until anyone knows what they really have. But overall, it's been really fun. I really love doing that kind of learning and adapting throughout the day. And Jeremy and the boys have done a great job. So we'll see if it sticks for pole, but it's gonna be fun to watch Chase.
Well done and well said, Mike.
So the question that Austin Cindric raised, same one we're wondering. Does Chase Elliott go to the apron on this qualifying lap to knock Austin Cindric off the pole?
I think he's definitely going to go down there. I saw when Jamie interviewed Chase, you could tell that he didn't want to talk about that line. And obviously today, the TV's the kind of the least of your worries because you have all that data everybody can look at with the ghost cars and see exactly where he's running. And of course, the crew chiefs are going to radio and give everybody that information as they run. But it seemed like he found something there because I felt like when she asked the question that he didn't really want to talk very much about that line.
Hitting the bump, though, right? When you get around there, that apron helps. Always help me get around there, get the car pointed, which is so important to your exit speed of the crap when you get on the throttle. If you hit that bump straight with not wheel in it, with a lot of wheel, you got to have it with a neutral wheel. If you hit that bump, it's way less drastic than you hit that with a lot of wheel in it, because when that thing gets a bounce and you got a handful of wheel in it, full of throttle, that's where the disaster strikes.
Yeah, and coming off the apron, you definitely have more steering wheel in it because it's loose, and then you get to the apron, it typically tightens the car up, right? So you slam the gas down, you have some wheel in it because it's tighter, and as it gets off the apron, typically it frees the car back up. So when you have all that happening and you hit that big bump at the same time, it's kind of a recipe for disaster.
The biggest thing that I see in watching both of those cars right there, and we've heard it time and time again, if this thing steps out, she gone. It don't come back. That thing doesn't have that big sail on the right rear quarter panel to straighten this thing out. That big insurance program that I call it, that's gone.
So Chase Elliott's team was allowed to cool down the car and change tire pressure. That's it.
He's probably wishing they could change tires.
Yes. Well, 41.226. That is the time of record for Austin Cindric, as we're about to find out if it'll be a Ford or a Chevrolet leading them to green for 400 miles here tomorrow.
Got to the green flag good. You see the ticker cross the start-finish line in the green to start his lap. There you see he straddled that seam down in 1 and 2. We haven't seen much of that today. He seemed like he split the lanes perfectly all the way through the whole corner.
And never had to get out of the gas. Car was stable on his exit, kept the throttle down. A lot of momentum down the back straightaway.
Start of the straightaway, he was half a tenth, and now he's in the red, and he goes to the apron, and whoa!
He didn't get all the way down, I don't think, where he wanted to.
Holy cow.
Chase Elliott was going for it all.
All right.
He was going for it.
And Austin Cindric will win the Busch Light pole, first career pole in his 9th Cup Series start.
Congratulations, you back up the big win. You take the pole, your first career in the Cup Series.
Yeah, thanks. Obviously, a pretty crazy week.
There's your pole winner, Austin Cindric, as Chase Elliott had the shot, went to the apron, and spun the final car to qualify. Xfinity Series race day starts right now.